are sweating something fierce, man. You put in work today. Good to see ya.
Consistency shows up in many regards. Sometimes it's an hour on the bike, but others, it's an evening at the cinema with a friend by your side.
You're shooting a video. Yeah.
Oh, he said action.
Got some.
Let me tell you something, Orlando. He who does the thing has the power.
Sometimes it's blazing speed on the track, and others, it's hitting legs.
We don't skip leg day anymore, man. We generate that power from the source.
I want to talk about a topic that I myself am shocked that I'm bringing up, which is leg day. Now, many bodybuilders notoriously are afraid of leg day. I myself was no different. There's a huge neurological response. It takes a long time to recover. After a really hard leg day, you spend a good part of your day or maybe even next few days in a haze. And so when I really got into endurance training for the first time, really prepping for my first big marathon effort, I kind of started skipping leg day all the time. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that, but when you have heavy legs, you just don't feel as motivated to run. This all changed when I discovered the Ironman event, because suddenly I could do a leg day and still do a swim session the following morning, or even a recovery bike ride. You see, cardio became available to me despite really getting after it with my legs. And so now I'm in a strange season where I want to build muscle at the same time while hopefully progressing in some capacity with the Ironman event and then eventually getting my mile time down. Now, I've come to do a lot of research when it comes to leg training and realize that the advantages of training your legs are immense. They're super powerful, and they're worth taking into consideration. So if you're a runner or an endurance athlete, or maybe you're getting into triathlon like I've been this last year, I want to talk about how leg day can be really, really beneficial for you in your training, in your programming. So the first idea I want to talk about is that leg training initiates systemic response. You see, the body looks at itself cohesively as a whole. When you train legs, you're training some of the biggest muscle groups in your body. And that has an effect that cascades throughout your entire physique. So for the longest time, I wanted to get my overhead press up, just because when you have bigger shoulders, you look more aesthetic, especially at a low body fat. If I could get my overhead press up to 135 for 5 reps or something like that, then I'd probably have solid shoulder development while staying a runner. For a long period of time, it was stuck at like 112.5 for 5 reps or 6 reps. Even a progression to like 115 for 5 reps is the best I ever got to while being around 165 pounds. And then in this last season, I just suddenly started back squatting again. Got stronger and stronger. Now I'm at a point where I can do 245 pounds for 3 sets of 3. And suddenly when I came back to my overhead press went up for the first time in months. And it wasn't something dramatic. It was 117.5 for 5 reps. But if you've ever tried to progress on this lift, you would know that getting stronger on the military press, it is exceptionally hard. So every 2.5 pounds or 5 pounds you add to your 5 rep max actually means that you probably gained maybe you gained a full pound of muscle for every 2.5 pounds you add to your overhead press after you reach your initial potential with it. Training legs, it has a systemic response. You see, your body realizes that more muscle is required in your legs, and as a result, it creates this like system-wide muscle building effect. Testosterone, growth hormone, just adaptations all across your body. And this has sort of been backed up by people that I sort of admire. One channel that I watch, the Mind Pump Show, they talk about how training legs actually could give you stronger arms, but I've even noticed this with just my stamina in running. The other benefit that comes from training legs all this time is that it leads to dramatic injury prevention. A lot of runners, they have very weak muscles in their legs, very weak hamstrings. And so as a result, they get injured all the time. Even for me, after doing 2 marathon preps back to back, for the first time ever in my whole life, I started having pretty dramatic knee pain and hip pain especially. And a big thing that was missing in my training at the time was just training legs, regularly. It's only when I reintroduced leg day that I realized that I wasn't getting injured so often. I wasn't having all these aches and pains because it just makes you more robust. Tanner Shuck is a fitness influencer that I watch and admire. He considers the back squat perhaps the most important muscle building exercise you can possibly do. The hack squat or the pendulum squat. But when you do it, you are building the foundation to your body. And so you just become very strong, all in all. That prevents you from getting injured. If you're training for a sub 4-hour marathon, I don't think you necessarily need super sturdy legs. even a sub 3:30 marathon, you can do without having a robustness to your legs. But once you're getting to like to the 3-hour mark, or some of my contemporaries, they're really pushing these paces for faster marathons, like sub 250, sub 240, sub 230. You need a sort of power. You need a sort of oomph behind you. You don't need a ton of muscle on you, but the legs, they kind of need to be durable and sturdy and be able to withstand a beating and also generate power. And so all that injury prevention and all that strength is going to come from training your legs. How should you actually do this? Well, low rep ranges work better. If you do super high rep ranges, 3 sets of 9 or 10 of like lunges or something like that, which I think lunges for me are hugely activating. So I get a lot of muscle growth out of doing lunges. You're going to have super sore legs. And it's going to, if you have like a tempo run coming up that week or something else, it's definitely going to slow you down and it's going to hurt performance to do super high rep ranges. But then that's where the benefit of bringing volume down. I'm now just sort of focusing on strength to a good degree. I was going at 8 reps at first, but now I bring my rep ranges down to 5 and now even like 3 to 5 reps on the back squat. If you keep your rep ranges lower, maybe capping out at 5 reps max per exercise, it's enough to stimulate some kind of response, the growth hormone benefits, the testosterone boosting benefits, just the systemic effect that we talked about in the first idea. You will get that from low rep ranges, but you're not going to get the same soreness and the same level of like hypertrophy. Neurologically, it's going to be very demanding and it's going to fire your systems like in terms of your brain, but it's not going to create this like fatigue in your legs that's going to prevent you from having a really effective track workout. The way I like to structure things now is once a week, I'll do squats heavy for 3 sets of 3. At my point right now, which is like low intermediate, maybe still novice squat guy, I'm adding on 5 to 10 pounds every single week on my back squat. I think at around 260 or 275 pounds for 3 sets of 3, my progress might start to plateau. It's just where my natural limits are unless I actually start eating more and focusing more on strength and hypertrophy as opposed to this hybrid program. But if you do low rep ranges on the back squat, that's a great way to kick things off. And then you can go to leg extensions, which I do for 3 sets of 5, hamstring curls, which they're kind of like the bicep of the leg. So hamstring should definitely not be neglected, especially if you're a runner. And then calf raises. Super simple, nothing too long. If I'm really feeling like it that week, I've also started adding in hip thrusts, which you can actually really fully send. You can do that for a higher volume without it affecting your running too much. I think it's kind of interesting, as guys, we don't really prioritize our glutes that much, that's more of a, I don't know, I feel like that's more of a girl thing to do in the gym, but it is a huge muscle group, right? So to have more muscle mass, to have more muscle development on your glutes as well, it's going to have a systemic response throughout your entire body. It's worth building muscle wherever it can be built. And so that's it. It's super simple, but one should not make the mistake of skipping leg day entirely, like I would do for long stretches of time before my marathons. Now, if you have a race coming up, if you're like 10 days out from a race, I think it's fine and probably beneficial and important to skip leg day that week because you want your legs to be as fresh as possible coming up on a race, and you want your mind to be as free and like neurologically recovered as much as you can. If you're pre-race and if you're just in the middle of a block, you're in the middle of training, do not neglect your legs. This brings me to the last idea of the video. Speed and strength can be built at the same time. In this last season, I have effectively put on around 3 pounds of muscle, which is pretty wild. Like in 3 months' time, I put on 3 pounds of muscle and I haven't really gained that much fat. In fact, my body composition went from 13% body fat down to around 11.3. So I've actually moved more in the right direction as a result of having put muscle on. And while I haven't gained a lot in terms of speed overall, I'm still approximately a 3:21 marathoner. I went to the track the other week, tested my mile for the first time. I clocked in around 6 minutes. And if you give me a little bit of buffer, I mean, that more or less equates to a 3:21 marathon. So I have not lost a lot in terms of my fitness in the marathon effort, in terms of speed and endurance. And that's just because I've been swimming a lot. Those miles that I would normally put on my legs, that ends up building up a lot of fatigue. I built that up a different way. And that's one of the benefits I found in triathlon training. You can give the legs a break but continue to build the heart. That's been immensely powerful. But there are enormous benefits to hitting legs all the time. You know, if you're a guy, there's a huge testosterone boost. I mean, that's half your body. You know, there's a growth hormone boost. There's a systemic response throughout the entire system that's going to get you stronger. And it is going to get you faster, especially if you want to work towards super fast marathon times. The number one thing you can do is just not get injured. You know, the number one thing that ruins progress is stepping out of the game entirely. And we don't want to do that. We want to stay in the game for as long as possible. So this year, 2025, really, it is the year of hitting legs. And I'm so happy to be saying that. Anyway, that's been this week's episode. I'm kind of in a weird arc with the channel right now because I'm just coming up on Ironman 73 Oceanside, my third attempt at the Ironman. At the half Ironman, and I'm hoping that race goes really well. I'm hoping this is the first time I don't DNF that. But even if I do, honestly, the Ironman event specifically has given me so much. It has given me a tremendous amount of value that nothing could ever take away from that, even if I don't successfully complete a race. And I actually am hoping that I can finally finish it substantially, and the goal remains to go sub 5:30, which would be just spectacular. I'm looking forward to that. If you enjoyed this vid, consider subscribing to the channel, follow me for more on Instagram at nrajapandey, and check out some of the links in the description box. If you're looking for a new pair of half tights, you can check out my link to get 15% off of Wallaco half tights or full tight shorts. And with that being said, we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.